The police showed up at my doorstep like they were raiding a secret hideout, as if we were stashing some outlaw crew in the attic. All because my 16-year-old son, Ethan, dared to wake up at dawn, jog his usual route, and hoist the American flag in our front yard. Meanwhile, this self-appointed neighborhood watchdog, Margaret Hensley, had been prowling around our house for weeks, clipboard in hand, snapping photos, and firing off complaints like it was her full-time job. It wasn't just petty rule enforcement, it felt like a vendetta. You know that sinking feeling when you realize someone's not just annoying, but outright obsessed with making your life miserable? That's what hit me when I heard that knock on our door in Maplewood, Ohio, back in June 2024. My gut twisted. What would you do if this was your kid? I'm Nathan Carter, a retired Air Force mechanic with 20 years under my belt, now running a small gym downtown. I never imagined that my son's pride in his country would turn him into a neighborhood pariah. It sounds dramatic, I know, but stick with me, his story will make your jaw drop. I want to hear where you're reading from, because I'm dying to know if this kind of madness is creeping into your town too. Maplewood used to be the kind of place where kids skateboard until sunset and neighbors swapped stories over lemonade. Ethan, my boy, was the kid I'd always hoped to raise respectful, disciplined, straight-A student. Every morning at 5:30 sharp, he'd lace up his sneakers, run 4 miles through our quiet streets, and raise the flag on the pole we'd set up when we moved here 3 years ago. There was something about watching a teenager choose grit over sleeping in that made my heart swell. Neighbors loved it too, some even started their morning routines just to wave at him. That is, until Margaret Hensley rolled into town. Margaret, 55, freshly single, moved into the big house on Willow Lane last winter. Within months, she'd sweet-talked her way into becoming president of the Meadowview Homeowners Association. I should have seen the red flags when she handed me a dog-eared copy of the community bylaws and pointed out that our porch light was 3 watts too bright per section 3.2. She had this sharp, condescending tone, like she was the only one who'd ever cracked open a rulebook. The first citation landed on a Monday while Ethan was at school. Margaret had been staking out our house, snapping photos of his morning jogs and flag-raising from her bedroom window. The notice claimed his running was disruptive before 6 a.m., and our flagpole violated aesthetic harmony. But what got under my skin was the photo attached to Ethan's face circled in red marker, like he was some fugitive. A kid who tutors math for free and helps at the local food bank. Seeing that picture, I felt a chill. Who targets a teenager like that over something so harmless? When Ethan saw the notice, his shoulders slumped. He stared at that circled photo and asked, "Dad, what did I do?" I didn't have an answer because he'd done nothing wrong. Margaret was gunning for my son, a kid most parents would kill to have. I thought we could reason with her, explain Ethan's just a good kid who loves his country. Big mistake. Within days, she plastered a notice on the community board titled Youth Disturbance Concerns, calling Ethan's routine a threat to neighborhood tranquility. She urged parents to monitor their children's outdoor behavior. Reading that felt like a punch to the chest. Neighbors started giving us side eye at the grocery store, like we were the problem family. Ethan stopped raising the flag. He started sneaking out the back door to avoid being seen. My confident, head-high kid was now tiptoeing around his own home, checking windows before flipping on a light. That's when I realized Margaret wasn't just enforcing rules, she was breaking my son's spirit for reasons I couldn't fathom. The breaking point came when Ethan got another citation claiming his sidewalk presence was intimidating to elderly residents. A 16-year-old honor student, intimidating? I was done playing nice. That night, I sat with Ethan and promised we wouldn't hide anymore. We'd follow every rule to the letter, document everything, and when Margaret slipped up, we'd be ready. I saw a spark in his eyes, the same fire I'd seen in young airmen who refused to be broken. What I didn't tell him was that I'd called in reinforcements, old Air Force buddies who knew what it meant to stand up for what's right. Margaret was about to learn that messing with a veteran's family comes with a price. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived, official looking with legal letterhead, demanding Ethan stop all disruptive activities or face fines. Ethan's hands shook as he asked if he'd be arrested. My blood boiled. I called our lawyer, who laughed at it was a fake document from a defunct law firm. Margaret had committed fraud to scare a kid. That same day, our neighbor Sarah Thompson, a quiet woman in her 50s who'd lived here forever, showed up with a folder. She looked shaken, saying she couldn't stay silent after seeing what Margaret was doing to Ethan. Inside were copies of fake legal notices sent to 5 other families, all targeting their teens for things like biking or playing music. The Wilsons' 15-year-old got a citation for skateboard noise. The Chin's 17-year-old was warned for loud car washing. Every family either moved or shut down their kids' activities. Sarah had been tracking this for months, waiting for someone to fight back. Ethan started keeping a diary, logging every interaction with Margaret, pacing with a notebook her dawn mailbox deliveries. His notes were meticulous, like a detective's log. June 10, 2024, Mrs. Hensley watched me jog from her porch, writing something down. It broke my heart to see my kid treat harassment like a school project, but it showed his strength. Then he told me Margaret was warning other parents to keep their kids away from him, calling him a troubled influence. He showed me his phone texts to friends, all unanswered. She was isolating him. Worse, she'd followed him to Maplewood High, snapping photos from her car until a security guard chased her off. That night, Ethan slammed his door, something he hadn't done since he was a kid. A teenager shouldn't live in fear in his own town. I called my old Air Force crew Mike Larson, Tom Reed, and James Cole. They were ready to mentor Ethan and other targeted kids, teaching them leadership and how to stand tall. We set up a session for Saturday, June 15, 2024, inviting the affected teens. Margaret was about to find out she'd picked the wrong fight. That morning, Ethan decided to run again, saying, "I'm not letting her win." But as he tied his shoes, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a cop, and my stomach dropped. Margaret stood at the end of our driveway, smirking, holding her HOA folder. The officer said she'd reported Ethan for damaging her car with rocks the night before. Ethan, pale, clutched his sneakers. I told the cop he'd been home all evening, pizza receipt at 6:30 p.m., calculus homework until 9. Our security cameras backed it up. Margaret's smirk faded as the officer watched the footage. Ethan handed over his diary, timestamps airtight. The cop's jaw tightened. He was done with her games. Margaret stammered, claiming it was a mix-up, then doubled down, saying Ethan's behavior made her feel unsafe. The officer asked for proof. Her flimsy violation notices didn't cut it. Then she slipped, saying Ethan didn't belong in a traditional community. The prejudice in her words hung heavy. The cop warned her about false reports and left. Margaret taped 4 more citations to our door by nightfall. The next week, Ethan found his fire. He was done being a victim. He connected with other targeted kids, the Wilsons' daughter, the Chin's son, building a network. They'd saved every fake notice, every threat. On Friday, I showed Ethan Sarah's folder, and we laid it out like a war plan. His notes had evolved to timestamps, witnesses, even weather conditions. I told him about the mentorship program with Mike, Tom, and James. His eyes lit up. Saturday's session was electric. Mike, a former special ops guy, taught leadership. Tom, a youth counselor, shared conflict strategies. James, a community organizer, drilled documentation. The kids soaked it up, no longer victims, but warriors. Then Margaret struck again. Sirens wailed as 2 police cars pulled up. She'd called them, claiming gang activity at our house. The lead officer stepped inside, saw 3 veterans mentoring teens around a coffee table, and his face said it all. Mike showed credentials. Tom outlined the curriculum. Ethan stood and spoke, voice steady, explaining how Margaret's harassment had stolen his confidence until now. The other kids chimed in, sharing their stories. The officer revealed Margaret's pattern of false reports. Then came the bombshell. An Ohio detective had flagged her name. Margaret had a restraining order from her old town, where she'd harassed 18 families' teens, driving 6 to move. She'd violated every term of that order here. Her meltdown came at an HOA meeting on June 20, 2024. She accused us of running a militia, but Ethan, the kids, and Sarah presented their evidence. Mike dismantled her lies. In a panic, Margaret called 911 mid-meeting, ranting about gang recruitment. The officer, fed up, arrested her for harassment, false reports, and violating her restraining order. She screamed about losing her own son to too much freedom, revealing her twisted motive. Margaret pleaded guilty, sentenced to a year in jail, 3 years probation, $20,000 in restitution, and a lifetime ban from authority roles. Maplewood's HOA, now led by Sarah, past Ethan's shield, protecting families. The mentorship program grew countywide, serving 70 kids. Ethan got a city leadership award. He runs and raises the flag daily now, joined by other kids. Margaret's campaign to break him built a stronger community instead. What would you do if someone targeted your kid like this? Would you fight back or move away? Should kids have to prove their innocence in their own neighborhood? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you on edge. Stay strong, keep your family tight, and never let a bully with a clipboard win.